I was recently asked by many of you to compare the Sigma I-Series 35mm 4L mount to the Summicron 35mm aspherical lens. This is not the APO model, it's the more recent version. Aperture-wise, they are the same. Maximum aperture of f2, minimum aperture of f22. Lengthwise, Sigma measures 83mm and the Sigma lens measures 65. So it's a difference of 18mm between the two, so almost 2 centimeters. That is the first big difference that I noticed between these two. And you can see right here that it is indeed a bit longer. Now, when you're using an SL2 or SL2S like I have right here, you are going to notice that difference because it is not the smallest camera out there for very different reasons, and having a lens that's a little shorter is, I think, better. The weight of the Leica lens is 365 grams compared to 320 grams for the Sigma counterpart. So there is a difference of roughly 45 grams between the two. Honestly, not a big difference, and I did not really notice that. I mean, doesn't make a difference really. Build quality, they are both made of metal. The only one that has a different part is the Leica lens that has a rubber focusing ring. The Sigma one is made of metal, but other than that, they're pretty much the same build quality. For the minimum focusing distance, the Leica lens wins with 24 centimeters of minimal focusing distance compared to 27 for the Sigma lens. So there's a difference of only 3 centimeters, but if you want to get close to your subject, this one will get closer. There is a autofocus, manual focus, little dial switch on the Sigma lens. Some of you will think this is great, and I think it is cool when you're taking photos. But when you're taking photos and videos like I do on the SL2S, I think it's great to just change that from the menu. And the reason for that is there is a button on the SL2S, I press it, and it switches between photo and video. So when you're taking some photos and you're in autofocus mode and you switch to video, then the video settings will remember that you need to shoot video in manual focus. So you don't really need to have that switch. The Sigma lens has an aperture ring that the Leica lens does not have. That is something that some of you will like and some of you will dislike. I personally don't really care specifically for the SL series because I got used to changing my aperture with a little dial on the back, especially when you're shooting video. It's great to just go like this and just change your aperture. Doesn't make any difference to me. Now, visually speaking, it would be nice to have an aperture ring. This is made of metal as well, so it looks very nice. It's very pleasing. When I take photos though, I like to have the little aperture ring. The Summicron has a filter thread of 67mm as compared to 58 on the Sigma lens. Personally, I prefer 67 for personal reasons because a lot of my lenses have a 67mm diameter thread, and I like that because I can use my ND filters and all my filters on this lens as well, wherein the Sigma lens is 58, it becomes a little tinier and a bit harder to use. Now, as I said, this is a personal preference. If you're someone that only shoots photos and that don't need any filter for the most part, 58 is great because it also shows you that this one has a diameter that's almost 1 centimeter smaller than the Leica lens. These are both weather sealed, that is good news. So if you go in dusty and or humid environments, the elements should not get into your camera. Now, as I said earlier, there is a little switch here, autofocus, manual focus. I think not having one is best in terms of weather sealing because that is one way that the dust and the humidity could get into your lens and your sensor. So that is, again, I think a great design for the Leica lens. One really cool feature about the Sigma lenses, the I-Series, is this little guy here. This is the magnetic cap. You just put it on like so, and it stays on the lens. It doesn't come off. I try to shake it very hard. You really have to shake it hard if you want it to come off, and it's really hard to do. But that's it, and you take it off like so, put it on, and you're good to go. Wherein the Leica lens is a little bit, I mean, you still can put it on. It's not hard at all, but sometimes they come off when they're in your bag and so forth. And this is just so much more intuitive to put it on and off. It's just a little parenthesis, nothing major, but I think that's something that other brands should start doing. The magnetic caps is actually great. The lens hood is magnetic for both these lenses. The only thing that changes is the form factor, really. This one has this little I don't know, little lines, little, grooves that makes it kind of neat, premium. This one is a brushed metal that looks very Leica-like, so I like that. It's more of a bayonet type. You can see in front here, it has the two little, things that come out. So it's just a different form factor. When you compare these two, you can see that one is much bigger than the other. And on top of it, this is a little bit longer. So it will add about 4 centimeters in front of your lens in terms of size. If you want something a bit more small package, I would go with the Sigma. If you want something that is a bit more, you can take it nicely in your hand firmly, I would go with the Leica lens. I think they're both good for different use and purposes. You might be wondering how's the focusing speed between these two lenses. I am not someone that shoots, Formula One and fast animals and stuff like that. It goes really fast. I like to point, focus in the middle, reframe, old school. That's how I shoot most of the time. I sometimes do use the face tracking, eye tracking feature of the SL2S, which is totally fine and enough for me in the studio, for example, when I do portrait shoots. But I did not notice a difference in focusing speed between these two. When I shoot video, I shoot in manual mode at all times. I never rely on autofocus unless I'm shooting, like in this case, on my Sony camera for my YouTube videos, but that's separate and different. But other than that, I think they both are very snappy for autofocusing purposes. Price-wise, we're about $650 for the Sigma I series lens and $2,500 for the Leica counterpart. That is a steep difference in price. I mean, you are getting a Leica lens here. Leica being Leica, you get the seal of quality, and you know that you're getting something that will last through the years. Also in terms of value, it's going to keep its value. I don't know how the Sigma is going to age, but there are reasons why Leica is more premium, be it in terms of optics, but also in terms of, resale and value over the years. If you are looking for something on an immediate base and you want to be able to have a 35mm, but you don't have a big budget, you could start with a Sigma, for example, and later on you could get a Leica lens. You could also go for the APO model that costs more, way more, but also gives you that extra good quality. In fact, I remember last year I shot a wedding using the 90mm APO, and a friend of mine saw the photos and he was genuinely impressed, and he told me, wow, that looks like it was screenshots out of a Hollywood movie. He told me there's that extra something in the, depth of field, the blurry, the bokeh, there's something. He couldn't put his finger on it, but I knew that I shot that with the APO lens, and it gives you that extra something, obviously. Now, how do they compare quality-wise for the image? I did a side-by-side shoot indoor using the same settings, trying to keep really the same environment, so I could show you a little bit if there are differences or not, and here they are. As you notice, there's no blatant difference between the two. In fact, I was sometimes real close to the monitor, sometimes real far from the monitor. I checked that, the bokeh, the blurry parts, the sharp parts. I tried to check everything and I could not really find a difference between the two. Now, obviously in more challenging environments such as, sunny daylights through branches and metallic surfaces and things like that, you might see a little more chromatic aberration on one or the other. But overall, I did not notice a huge difference between the two. I have used this 35 a lot in Portugal recently because I went to the 50 years anniversary of Leica in Portugal. By the way, I will make a video of my journey in the coming days and weeks. And I was very pleased with it. It was very comfortable to use, especially for video. The fact of being a little bigger, I think it's better than this that's tinier. It feels more comfortable in the hand and I have more control using this for video. Now for photos, I went to Hungary a few months back and this is the only lens I took with my SL2S. That is it. And I shot everything, my entire holiday using just this. So once again, I think it does make a big difference depending on what you need this lens for, what is the purpose, and yeah, that's the biggest difference between the two. Take care. Don't forget to subscribe if you like my content and you don't want to miss my next videos. I will probably do a review of the 50mm Sigma I series compared to the Summicron. Catch you later and take care. Cheers.